Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Overmars, and I work with the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the first of several online discussions taking place during Nova Scotia Human Rights Week. Since 2023, communities throughout the province have been invited to join in a week-long celebration of human rights from December the 3rd to the 10th. Presented by the Human Rights Commission in partnership with human rights champions, community-based organizations, and government. The week's events highlight the foundational role human rights play in protecting each person's right to live free from discrimination and the powerful force of a collective effort. Tonight, we're gathered for a youth roundtable, Voices for a Safer Halifax. As part of the ongoing Youth Voices for Safer Communities process, led by the Halifax Regional Municipality, in partnership with the Canadian Practitioners Network for the Prevention of Extremist Violence, this roundtable brings together young people to share their lived experiences, insights, and recommendations for a safer Halifax. Youth will discuss the challenges they face, the spaces where they feel unsafe, and their visions for a city where they can fully belong and thrive. This session is an invitation to listen closely, honor youth leadership, and reaffirm our shared responsibility to build a Halifax grounded in dignity, safety, and human rights for all. I would now like to invite Aliana to provide a territorial acknowledgement before we hand it over to Amy Siciliano from the Halifax Regional Municipality to speak more about the project. Aliana, over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Um, so my name is Eliana, and I'm gonna open up with a land acknowledgement. So before we begin, I would like to take a moment to offer a land acknowledgement and express our gratitude to those who came before us, the vibrant communities that continue to thrive today, and the land that holds us. We respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, and Passamaquoddy peoples. These traditional lands stretch across what is known as Nova Scotia, the Maritime Provinces, and into parts of eastern Quebec. For thousands of years, the Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, and Passamaquoddy nations have maintained deep relationships with the lands, waters, and all living beings in this region. These territories are governed by the Peace and Friendship Treaties, signed between 1725 and 1779, which established relationships between the British Crown and the Indigenous nations. These While settlers call this place Nova Scotia, this land has been cared for by the Indigenous peoples for generations. No matter where we're from, it's important to acknowledge that we're on Tuttle Island, a place where we share, whether we think about it every day or not. We also recognize the enduring legacy of the Nova Scotian Black Loyalists. The Black Loyalists arrived in Nova Scotia in the late 1700s, seeking freedom after fighting for the British during the American Revolutionary War. They came with hope, strength, and resilience, building new lives in places like Birchtown, Shelburne, and Annapolis Royal. Though they were promised land and opportunity, many were met with broken promises, racism, and harsh living conditions. Despite this, Black Loyalists created strong, vibrant communities that laid the foundation for generations of African Nova Scotians. Their contributions, culture, and resistance are woven into the fabric of this province's history. As we reflect on the histories of this land, we recognize the deep and enduring presence of the Mi'kmaq people and the legacy of the Black Loyalists, two communities whose stories of resilience, resistance, and strength come to shape Nova Scotia. May this acknowledgement not just be of words, but a call to action, a reminder of our responsibility to honor these histories, uplift these communities, and work towards a more just, inclusive, and truthful future for all who call this land home. Thank you.
Thank you, Aliana. Over to you, Amy.
Great. Thank you so much, Eliana and Jeff. It's a real privilege to be able to introduce this event tonight. It's been a real privilege to work with the youth as well as my cat is sorry, wanting to join the party. Um, to work with the youth as well as Zaina and Haida and also the folks from the Human Rights Commission, like Angela, that supported us in the work we've been doing together. So Just a bit of background. My role, I'm the public safety advisor with Halifax Regional Municipality, and my role is to oversee the development and implementation of the municipality's public safety strategy. And that strategy is meant to, well, I like to say, steer the ship upstream. So kind of, it's focused on prevention. It's focused on really kind of, co-creating the conditions for safer communities with the folks that live, work, and play in them. And we are into our second strategy, and it's about to expire. And so, recognizing that the issue of social polarization, hate, and violent extremism was becoming. I was hearing in community that this was becoming an issue that we needed to tackle, or at least figure out what our role is as a municipality in addressing for our next public safety strategy. And so I started, I guess, on a learning journey to help me understand, what this like, what's happening in other places, what's the nature of the problem, how is it showing up here, and a part of that kind of learning led to a workshop in March where we brought, with the support of Public Safety Canada, with our collaborators at, I'm going to call them CPN-PREV because it's long, Canadian Practitioners Network for the Prevention of Extremist Violence, CPN-PREV. And community organizations came together in March to really start talking about this issue together, learning about it together, and understanding, what we could do together. At that workshop, there was a deliberate choice, actually, not to include youth. And I would say it was a bit controversial choice, but I stand behind that decision, or that choice, because why it was made was really on the advice of our facilitators, Zaina and Haida, around ensuring that we're not tokenizing their participation, that we are carefully preparing a space that is putting their safety and voices at the center. And we had never come together at all. And so I think it was good to do that groundwork, to prepare us to host young people and hear their voices in a meaningful way. And so that March workshop happened. And then out of that, we asked those community organizations to nominate 2 young people who could serve as, kind of consultants, if you will, for us to begin learning from them. And that was also a process I'd never done before, and it worked out well, as I hope you'll see today. But certainly we've seen it in September when they came together for 2 days, kind of a repeat of the March workshop, but youth focused. And then of course we presented they presented as a panel at a national conference that Halifax hosted in November, and we got to hear from them. And that their voices reached really a national audience of people who are doing work like we're doing here in Halifax. So people who are kind of in my role across the country. And in fact, there was folks, I think, as far away as San Diego joining us. So and so that's the background. We are kicking off the renewal of our new public safety strategy. I really am happy to have the opportunity to learn from the young people that have come here today and have joined us in the past, so that the work that we put forward to Regional Council for a new strategy to be approved can be as meaningful and impactful as it can be, and that only comes really from hearing directly from the folks who we need to, who we need to do better for and with. Thanks. I'll stop there. I think I said too much. Jeff, I don't remember who I'm turning it over to, but I'm hoping you're going to help me. Is it Zaina?
It is Zaina.
Perfect.
For you.
Actually, it's the perfect timing for Ghaida Hassan to join us. So I'm wondering whether Ghaida would like to take it from there. Ghaida, we just started. Jeff introduced the context. Ariana did the amazing land acknowledgement, and Amy contextualized the project. So maybe you would like to share a few words on our CPN-PREV and how we are approaching listening to youth voices on how they perceive safety. So before we open the round for more reflection and introducing everybody, so the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry for joining a few minutes late. I was moving from one set of meetings to this one. I'm very happy to have been able to make it. So I'm Ghaida Hassan. I'm a psychologist, and I direct the Canadian Practitioners Network for the Prevention of Extremist Violence. That's what CPN-PREV stands for. I think what we bring to this work is moving away from a pathologizing and securitization framework of youth, understanding the victimization and the structural injustices that many youth have been experiencing for so long in history, but also in our modern world, and really working with youth, learning from youth at the forefront and at the center of adapting our structures, changing our society to make it a more just, inclusive space, because we believe that we are drifting socially to a perception of sometimes youth as a source of violence, whereas it's really much more youth who experience all sorts of violence against them, all sorts of obstacles for personal and social and economic growth. And I think that Zaina and I and everybody all the wonderful people we work with, try hard to resist, I would say the word resist, this slippery slope, this socially and politically as well in the current environment. And so we had this amazing opportunity to work with some of the incredible youth who are here. And I'm so happy to see you all again. To share and to learn and to guide the policies that directly impact their day-to-day lives. So that's pretty much what I have to say. Thank you, Zaina, for reaching out to me for this.
Thank you so much. I will introduce myself as well in this space, but I would like to start by thanking the Human Rights Commission, Jeff, for this amazing opportunity for us to connect as a community, because it's been since November. We did not, it's almost 1 month, and we got used to seeing each other. So I'm happy to reconnect with I will not use word youth. I will use the word colleagues and friends if I'm allowed to. I'm so happy also to continue this collaboration with our colleague, partner, and friend Amy from the Halifax Municipality. I would like to acknowledge that I'm also connecting from Muntong, de Johjoge, Montreal, because I've learned recently that Johjoge is half of the name of de Johjoge as a place of connection and encounter, learning also from oral history and knowledge keepers in our area. So I'm grateful for being hosted and received as a settler on unceded indigenous land. And I've learned from this process to accept my identity as a settler, but also to learn from indigenous worldviews to honor the knowledges and also always to give back. I'm a bit not sad, but it's a reality that we're missing part of the youth, a big number of the youth. Most of them, for many of them, connecting online by itself is a challenging process, thinking about privacy, capacity to connect online and be present where they don't have a place to stay. So I would like to honor their voices while, even if they're not with us here today. Um, on those notes, I would like to invite our colleagues, youth, to introduce themselves, locate themselves from where they're connecting, and maybe we start by also answering the first question, which is about the importance of sharing your views on safety. Why was it, and it's still important for you to come forward and share your views on safety? So just to facilitate the process, I will call the person who's next to me as appearing on the windows. And when that person speak, please also nominate someone after you to speak so we can speed up the process and also kind of maintain a circle space, even if we're not present with each other in a circle. So my next person next to me is Aliana. It's by coincidence, I guess, but again, I don't want to mess up with the order of the circle.
Yeah, no, like I was hoping I was gonna be first. Um, so my name's Aliana Gordon, and I'm a second year commerce student here at St. Mary's University, and I'm located in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So why is safety and my views on safety so important, especially as a youth? It's important to me because the environments that we like move through, the environments that we're in, really shape who we are as a person and our confidence and the opportunities that we get, and honestly, how we present ourselves. When we young people or when we get the opportunity to speak about safety, we're not just even really pointing out like the problems, we're pointing out and advocating for the kind of communities that we want to grow up in, the communities that we want to be able to experience, and the communities that we want to shape us. Um, I share my views because many people and many youth still feel very unheard and very unseen. Um, and their experiences have been dismissed or minimized or diminished. And in all honesty, that's not fair. So by speaking up, I'm able to use my voice and advocate for those safe spaces and for that safety, especially for the people that are not always given the space to express that. And safety shouldn't be something that we necessarily hope for or hope we I shouldn't be thinking when I go into a space, I hope this is a safe space for me. I hope that this is going to be a good space for me. I don't want to feel that way, right? And that's why we keep talking about it and have these conversations. Um, so sharing my perspective, and just to summarize that, sharing my perspective really helps me push that conversation forward in a way that is honest, grounded, and centered in a real experience. These experiences are important. It's important that everyone is feeling heard and feeling seen. So that's why I share my views on safety and why I think it's important. And I'm going to pass it to Yasmin.
Hi, my name's Yasmin. I'm a second year at St. Mary's University. I'm also located in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I think that the youth deserve to shape the spaces that we're a part of. And I also believe that if we don't speak up, that decisions will be made regardless without us. And they might affect us in ways that we won't like. So I think it's just easier for us to speak up and say what we want and say our views. Um, Also, to go off what Aliana said, there's people that can't speak up for themselves, and all of us have the privilege to be able to do that. So I think to take advantage of that is a great thing to do, and why not if we have the opportunity? I'll pass it to Mallory.
Good evening. My name is Mallory. I'm located in Halifax, Nova Scotia as well. I'm a fourth year criminology student at St. Mary's University. And I think it's really important to advocate for community safety with youth because some youth and people are not always given the opportunity to advocate for themselves. So working off of lived experience and education and what I've seen in the community and do what I can with the opportunities I'm given, I think is really important. And I'm going to pass it to Ailith.
Hello, I'm Alice. I'm a student at Dalhousie University getting my Master's of Information. Currently living in Halifax. I think it's really important to share our views on safety because I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what safety means. There's kind of the basic assumption that it just means you are physically safe, like there's nothing actively like a physical threat to me right now. And it's a lot, while that does count, that is an important part of safety, there is more to it. Like people's mental and physical and like emotional well-being also need to be accounted for. And there is a there are many different every person has their own perspectives and their own experiences. And in sharing my views of safety and my life experiences, I can help better somebody else's understanding. And it's important for everybody to listen to each other and be able to listen to everybody else's views in order to get a bigger understanding of a community's need for safety, not just one singular perspective, because so often people from marginalized communities, people who are Indigenous, newcomers to Canada, people who are LGBT, like their voices get kind of shoved under the rug. And it's really important to allow everybody to voice their thoughts and their needs. I'm going to pass this on to Rhoda.
Hello, my name is Rhoda Obong, and I am a second year student at Dalhousie University, majoring in international development studies. And I believe that it is important for youth to share their perspective on safety in Halifax because it is, as a youth, it is our experience that shapes our how we feel in our communities and public areas. So it is important for youth to share their perspective because then they are going to be heard and like policies can be made to better the communities, to better the environment so that it can be so that we as youth can feel welcome. And that's why I feel confident in sharing my experience because I stand on that I am also speaking for somebody. I am also speaking for myself. So it kind of pushes me to do to speak on the safetiness of our communities. That's it. Thank you.
I think it's Yahya who's next to you.
Oh, yes. I forgot to pass it on. Okay, I would pass it on to who is Haya?
Yahya.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Yahya. I'm a second year commerce student at St. Mary's University, and I'm based off of Halifax, Nova Scotia. So for me, safety is definitely something that I think about every day, especially as a Muslim youth growing up in Halifax. I've grown up seeing how rising Islamophobia affects how we feel in general public spaces. It changes how confident we feel walking on campus, being in the community, and just generally speaking up. I've been a part of a lot of different workshops and conferences where I spoke up about this and youth safety, and I've seen how powerful it is when our voices are included. So being here today with you all is just another way to make sure that all these experiences actually lead to a real change. And I also think that us youth are the ones that are living the reality of these issues every single day, and we offer a different perspective than most people. So we should also be the ones shaping the solutions.
Danat, do you like to speak? Your camera is off, so I'm wondering if you're around or not. If not, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, waiting for you, Janet, or is it a connection problem, I guess? Okay. So yeah, whenever you can, please yeah, take the space. You can raise the hand, your hand on the screen, so you can click that button. But while you're securing a better connection, hopefully, I wanted just to ask you, even if I'm throwing questions, please, anyone, everyone. Also feel free to ask questions. So it's not like it's not one way, it's two ways, three ways, four ways, five ways, the way you would like to have it. But my like the second round of question is mainly about like taking also from the things you've shared. You shared something about the nuance and the misunderstanding around the definition of safety, that sometimes we focus on the physical safety, not that physical safety is also ensured, but the focus will go there and we forget about other dimensions of safety, especially the one that is connected to identity. So I'm just taking this idea from you and throwing it back to our circle, thinking about when we came together the first time and we came holding with us that identity. I remember myself like even um, navigating that tension between how much I share about my identity and how do I position myself in the space so the space become becomes more welcoming with respect and dignity. So would any one of you would like to share or to speak to that? What made it possible for all of us in that space to come with the luggage we have as we are and still be able to share very, very authentic and very tough issues around the concept of safety. So yeah, I see Aliana with her hands up.
Yeah, so for me personally, when I first came to that space, I didn't know what to expect and I felt really nervous. Um, I feel like that's like usually how I feel. I feel like that's a good response, but I always feel like the sense of nervousness when I go into these spaces because I'm unsure how to express myself and what the space is going to look like, and is this like genuinely like a good space for me to express myself comfortably and fully. And for me personally, what made me feel like I could express myself and express my identity was when I realized that I wasn't going to be like the elephant in the room, and I could share things that I felt comfortable with sharing and talking about. Um, they're not here today, but there was one youth that was there that really shared this experience of the stars and how like the stars, what they mean for them. And for me, I was like, maybe this is a space where I can really talk about and share my own experiences, and I won't stand out or be too much or too little. And that was that experience for me. Just really like being able to look around and be like, everyone has something in common here, and everyone here will get what I'm gonna say. Yeah. and I'll pass it on to Ayla.
I know when I walked into the room, I didn't fully know what I was expecting. I have been to many spaces like this before, and I'm going to be completely honest. There have been a lot of events or spaces I've got workshops I've gone to that have just been so they did not feel like they worked the way they were supposed to. And I was admittedly a bit nervous, but I love having these conversations, and I think that these conversations are really important. And so I knew that there were some aspects of me that I really wanted to make known. There were like I'm an Indigenous person, I'm a queer person. I think coming to a space like this, knowing there are some aspects of your identity that you for sure want to share and you want to talk about and you want to make known and you is very important, and you have to be very willing to um be disappointed. I thankfully was not disappointed. I had a wonderful experience, hence why I'm still here. And I think it was in part because of the people who were there. Everyone was so willing to sit and listen. And as you were talking, it was like the ice was melting. We were all, everyone just immediately, like, upon hearing people speak, knew like this, you spoke about this, I can speak about this now. I'm feel comfortable to share this part of me. You, I relate to this part of what you shared. And so I'm going to continue on with that. And it was just a really wonderful space to really kind of open up. And it felt very pretty quickly while I was there. You could tell that this was a group of people willing to have this conversation, genuinely have this conversation, and not shy away from the kind of the distressing, the non-pleasant parts of it.
So building on that, we acknowledge that also during in that space, it was not, it was easy to identify or to define safety and also to identify the unsafe spaces in our exercises. And also, you've put together recommendations to make Halifax safer. So I see Mallory raising her hand, but like I would, in addition to the first question, Mallory, if you can speak also um, to the fact that we lost some youth also during the first workshop, and how does that feel to you? What can we do to make things even better? So yeah, I give it back to you.
I think a major aspect of the space feeling safe was we're all very like-minded individuals, all gathering for the idea of safer communities. So it felt generally accepting as well. And I think an aspect of the reason like some youth not showing up for today could be it is a little intimidating to speak on a webinar and meet online and kind of like work through these ideas and subjects facing a screen instead. So I think like it was a great space, super comfortable. I felt comfortable. I think quite a few of the other members in attendance felt safe and comfortable as well. Um, but overall, I generally had a great experience and super grateful for the opportunities it's bringing and the ability to speak on behalf of others and experiences I've seen in the community.
Yeah, again, thinking about what you've just shared, Mallory, I was thinking whether thinking about us in the space and how rich we are in terms of identities and the hats that we're bringing into the space, and also connecting with the history of Halifax and the legacy of Halifax and the violence witnessed in Halifax, but also the strength and resistance of people like you, youth like you, who are still coming forward and wanting to make changes. So I was just wondering how that issue of identity was easy to navigate. You've said that you were all like-minded, in terms that you wanted really to address the complexity of safety, but individually, each one of you has their own pathways, uh, aspects of identities that are not always speaking to each other. So, how was this navigated? How was the tension dealt with in the space? Because this also would inform how other spaces might be or benefit, if any, from the experience you created together during the workshop. Yeah, please take the space.
I think it was really important when coming in to acknowledge like we only really have ourselves, our identities, and our experiences to go off of. And we kind of, at least for me, came in knowing that like I am entering a space with people from with other perspectives. There aren't going to be people who have the same identity. No one, people aren't going to have the exact same identity hats that I have. And so you come in and are willing to speak on your stuff, like on your behalf, but you have to then understand that someone's going to have a vastly different experience from you, even though all of our experiences, I think, are so similar together. Like I'm an Indigenous person, and so my experiences are going to be vastly different from someone who's a newcomer to Canada. Yet there are still a lot of similarities in the experiences that we've had, especially due to like potential racist experiences or feeling not fully understood or feeling excluded. So I think you had to really kind of understand that while we are so similar in many ways, we are vastly different, and just allow people to speak and make mistakes and admit to not understanding and not knowing, and be able to say, I don't know this. I don't know. And be able to say, I thank you for your experience and your perspective, and it just allow yourself to actually like listen to what is being said and open yourself up to other perspectives and understandings, and be able to also kind of hold yourself accountable for your kind of knowledge already. And there were times where we had disagreements and we kind of were saying things that we weren't about topics that we weren't fully aware of, and so then you speak, then you hear other people's experiences, and it's being able to take a pause and reflect and go, I never thought of it that way. I didn't know that, and allow yourself to potentially change your mind on things, potentially learn and grow. And I think we all did really well at having that, kind of understanding and willingness to understand in this space. And I think that really helped make it like such a productive workshop.
Yasmin, Rhoda, Malloy, Yahya, does this speak to your experience as well in the space?
Yes, I can just following what Ali said. So basically, is that yes, when what I noticed was that when everybody came and just in their engagement, everybody was like there was sense of openness that I saw upon each and one of us. That although everybody is different in their identity now, there was the openness to just understand one person, and that was the thing that I saw that was huge. That kind of connected each the conversation and kind of um, helped the voices of each of us be upholded, like lifted, because we were like open to it. We were open. We were like, okay, wow, this is like understanding, like it gave more insights, and it also kind of helped each other, any like things that they make them feel unsafe, kind of, even though it may seem little to the eyes of others, everybody was open and view it as it is a problem. It is something that we must talk about. So what I saw was mainly the that everybody was open, like they were open to understanding, open to voice it out, help you voice out what you needed to speak. Yes, thank you.
Will wait in patience, but also invite anyone who has a question among us, Ghaida, Amy, and all of you. If you have also a question that you would like to share, because I think also like sharing a voice and perspective on safety is not is done with a certain expectation. So we spoke once, and you invited us a second time to a conference, and we spoke. And here are you inviting us for a webinar, and we're here, and we will speak to that. But what after? So I would like us to also touch base with your expectation, because now there is a report with that maps the areas that you identified as not safe in Halifax. You also defined safety for yourself and also recommended certain actions, and actions that we acknowledge, like while reading the report, we acknowledge that these are not huge actions, simple things that might make a huge difference when you speak about the transit, when you speak about safe healthcare, etc. So, what is that question on your mind that is like spinning now, saying, okay, and what's next? The big silence.
I mean, from my side, it's exactly oh, Aleph, did you want to go? I'll go after you.
No, I just heard the no silence, so I was gonna just jump in. But if you have something more pressing to say, you say it first, and then I'll go first then. I know that I came to this workshop thinking that it was just gonna be a one weekend workshop, and then that was it. And we would go in, speak, then leave. And I didn't really expect anything to come of it. And I'm really, really happy to see that people are listening to us, and we've been, there was a report, there was a conference, now there's this. I think like it's really encouraging to see that there is such a positive response and like a continuation of this. And there are yeah, I really didn't have many expectations besides just the workshop, and I'm really happy to see that there's people are listening and people want to hear the small little nuances and the small things that really people view as, or people don't even think about, but really genuinely mean a lot. And I will turn it back to you and anyone else who wishes.
I think it's the same thing, meaning that it's great to have those spaces to be able to carry on the work beyond our weekend. We generated policy recommendations, and having those spaces to express lived experiences. And I remain kind of with the same question as Zena, which is what next? In the sense that there are very easy, very compelling, very clear recommendations that were made. And it feels strange not to take these recommendations into account by those who make policies, by those who fund programs, by those who create environments and design environments. And yet, from another side, we have seen too many times decision makers not involving youth into those decisions, spending an incredible amount of time trying to figure out what needs to be done, and taking decisions that are sometimes very far from what youth truly need. And I think it's about time to admit that people who are disconnected from youth lives are not those who should be making the most important decisions, and that youth recommendations should be taken with all the seriousness that they are. They truly are serious recommendations. They're not disconnected recommendations from reality. They're not unrealistic. Some may be longer term to achieve. Some may need more time to be achieved. Some may need important change to be achieved. But that doesn't mean that they are not doable. And so from my side, it's moving away from the double standards and the hypocrisy. I know these are strong words, or the disconnection, let's say. So let me say it more positively and in a more constructive manner. So stepping away from the disconnection and recognizing that we keep on saying that youth are the future, that youth are the builders of society. But then what does it mean when we say that and that we don't involve youth in the decisions that need to be made for their society? So, yeah, it feels very contradictory in terms of practice, and most importantly, very inefficient in terms of policy and program design practice. So I would urge us to move away from our usual way of doing business, quote unquote, and be truthful to the people whose our decisions, and I'm saying our like putting myself in that part of the quote unquote non-youth and poor decision maker. Yeah, to be truthful enough to our mandate, and include at the forefront the people that we make decisions for.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this, Ghaida. I think it's an important reminder for all of us. Even like when we thought about this getting together online, creating those windows and opportunities to keep on leveraging the important voice that was missing on the decision-making space or sphere. So creating those moments, thinking that these moments are important, but also trying to push as much as possible towards making a shift in the status quo, and going back to the recommendations that you came up with during our workshop together. I keep on saying that I cannot believe that we cannot really implement at least some of them, and things, little steps, but these steps might make a huge difference. First, by solving a problem, but most importantly, by opening the door to go from words to action. Because this is a huge door that will open further adjustments and maybe having more voices coming forward. So my question to you, and it's just like a kind of throwing it out there. So you are all promising your leaders and what you're doing, but also promising decision makers that will occupy the space, hopefully soon, with your wisdom, but also your genuine desire to make things better for you, but also for the generations that are coming also forward. So, if you were now a decision maker and you have the power to change one thing and the way things are being carried out for youth in Halifax, what would that one thing would be? The magic stick. It's we're heading towards Christmas, so we are allowed to dream. Yeah, go ahead. Don't wait for me to give.
Hello? Okay. Um, that is a really, really good question. And I don't know if it's the best question because I feel like I'm kind of opinionated on these types of things. Um, So I would honestly say that I would look at sustainability and the way that we're shaping our city and our spaces, um, especially when it comes to where we're placing things, how we're going to make that look. I feel like youth are really let out of that space, and I think it's important for youth to be included in these types of discussions around SDGs and sustainability and all these types of things and green spaces because this is the city that I'll be in for the next 6 to 8 years doing schooling. This is the where I want to live for the rest of my life, and it's really important for me to be a part of these conversations so I could shape them and put my voice out there and advocate for these spaces and advocate for what sustainability needs to look like in Halifax and so on and so forth. Another really important thing is safety and in classrooms and in education. Um, as someone who was raised in a very rural community outside of Halifax, I think it's really important that youth are brought to the table for discussing um, what education should look like and education maybe reform. Um, a lot of those, a lot of education and the structure and the systems that we use, rather that be in high school or university, um, can be harmful towards people. It doesn't work the same for everybody, and if you have a square mold, a circle doesn't fit in that, and so doesn't a triangle. So I think it's really important that we youth are brought to the table and are able to discuss um, safety within education, whether that be microaggressions, whether that be like racism, whether that be violence, anything like that. I think it's important that youth are there and are speaking because these are our communities and these are our spaces that we have to visit it to every day. Um, yeah, not gonna ramble on too much, but yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Thanks, Aliana. Anyone else would like to share? We also have a question for us in the Q&A box. But if anyone would like to add or continue from, yes, Yahya, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, just to answer your previous question and this one. So if I were to think about where I hope these recommendations will go and what they will lead to, and also what I would do if I was a policymaker myself, one thing I would definitely focus on, I think, is creating long-term youth-led spaces across the HRM in Nova Scotia and making sure that these conversations that we're having are built into our school curriculum so that they're taught to people at a young age and also at a university level. A lot of the issues that we've talked about, including, discrimination, racism, and something that's close to me, which is Islamophobia, came from young people and the youth feeling kind of isolated and unheard, and that they have a lot to say, but they don't have a place to say it. And they're also not educated enough about other people's experiences. So that's where the misconceptions and that's where, these things start to play in because when people are not educated enough, So they start to make up things in their own head and then they start to act on it. So I would invest in permanent community spaces that the youth help design themselves, where they can feel safe, respected, and also supported. And I would also make sure that our schools teach about safety, inclusion, and the real challenges that people face in the community. So my hope is just that our recommendations push the city towards, more consistent youth engagement and towards building a Halifax where every young person feels a sense of belonging, more confidence, and they can understand, both inside and outside the classroom what people are going through.
Thank you so much, Yahya, for sharing your words of wisdom with us and the call for a kind of institutionalization of um, youth engagement and the way not only sharing voices but having forums that are youth-led and that they can contribute directly, feed directly into how the city is managed. So thank you so much for sharing this. Um, while waiting for you also to take space to answer, if you have more answers to that question, I will read the question that we have in the Q&A. So it's from Anonymous. Thank you, Anonymous. On a day-to-day basis in everyday life, how does extremism in Halifax impact each of you and those you care about? What can the community who is not experiencing this do to help?
Just two things. Um, so firstly, I just want to add on to what Yahya said about the youth forums and such like that. I completely agree, and I would like to also share that there needs to be a restructure of the resources that we do have, and they need to be more publicized and more accessible for youth, and reach deeper into youth spaces so that everyone can have the voice to share. I feel like a lot of the youth spaces are closed off or there's not as many youth spaces. So I think that 120% should be happening. Um, Second thing for the extremism comment, thank you, Anonymous. So for me personally, I feel like as I'm a second generation immigrant, so my dad's Jamaican, and I feel like a lot of the extremism towards um, immigrants coming in and out of Nova Scotia and in and out of Halifax has really affected me and my family. I feel like we're more self-conscious and conscious of the um, extremism, especially that you see online. And in all honesty, it has really brought down the confidence or self-confidence of my family and of my dad. I feel like he's more cognizant of the spaces that he comes in and out of, and I feel like he tries to maybe rid his identity because of the extremism and tries to blend in more by losing pieces of himself, which is something very unfortunate that you see a lot of the time, especially recently. People rather forget about their core identity and their culture and what makes them them. Um, in order to blend in more and avoid the violence that you'll see. A lot of hate speech, a lot of microaggressions, and even macroaggressions, really, a lot of like hateful comments. Um, and I feel like really talking about it in different spaces would be something that would be the first step, or even just acknowledging that it's happening. I think that would actually be the first step. It's really hard to come to terms with realizing that a community that you love or space that you love or something like that could also have this other side of extremism. And I think acknowledging that first is your first step. And then the second step would be talking about it, talking about how this type of extremism isn't okay and how it can really affect people and the different avenues it can affect people. So that would be the first thing that I would suggest for you um, in order to help.
Thanks, Eliana. Yeah, please go ahead.
I agree very much with what Aliana and Yaya are saying. I think definitely within a like youth are very often, at least from my experience, viewed as inexperienced. We're still, in school, we're still learning all the various aspects of our identity and exploring like who we are and what type of people we want to be. And so I think there is kind of like quite often an assumption that we're still learning, we don't know things, and so there is a tendency to dismiss us. Thankfully, we are seeing that people do want to listen to youth voices, and there is an emphasis on the need to listen to youth voices. And I think definitely within schools, as everyone was saying, like there needs to be a solid and like a ongoing commitment to like EDI/AD principles, equity, diversity, inclusivity, accessibility, and decolonization, to really like educate people on all the various perspectives and ongoing the systemic issues within the world. Um, I don't, I'm fairly new to Halifax. I've moved here recently, so I can't speak specifically on the extremism within Halifax. But I know definitely from speaking to other people that there are, even from, before moving to Halifax, that people have been affected by extremist views. And I think it's really important to have like a better, to you don't want, we can't let like extremist views be the loudest ones. um there needs to be education going on like early on to help prevent these like hardcore hateful extremist views, and there are great resources out there that schools or libraries and educators can use in order to gain various viewpoints and to build um better understandings that they can then go forward and teach within like schools to help prevent these hateful extremist opinions.
Thank you. So we have also a question from Anonymous. I'm not sure if the same Anonymous is asking or another Anonymous. So how do you think global political events and polarized dialogue are impacting youth in Nova Scotia? So you've touched upon this a bit, Alice, but yeah, are youth impacted by what's happening internationally, globally, in terms of political tensions and events?
I think youth very much are impacted by global and political events. Like we can see what's, because they're not just happening to just youth, they're affecting everybody. We can see like what's happening within the states and how they're going further and further, conservative, and more and more people are adopting like hateful extremist ideologies. And Canada, unfortunately, does follow a lot of like American and US trends, politically and socially as well. And thankfully, we are different enough. I think that we are currently keeping a more like a yeah, words, sorry. Like we are having a more understanding, and I think are able to have more nuanced understandings of what's going on. But so often people are, I think, being swayed by what's going on and becoming more and more opinionated. And I think, finding there needs to be you need to be on one polar opposite. There is no room for nuance or room for error. And I think we have to understand that especially as youth, we're still learning. We are potentially going to make mistakes and potentially say the wrong thing, and not just, instead of immediately going, you're just an educated, horrible person. You have to understand people don't know things. People are learning. They're going to make mistakes. And so being able to not take on such polarizing views immediately without understanding what's going on, and holding that space for people to grow and build better understandings, I think is really, really important. If anyone else wants to jump in and kind of continue on.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you see a lot of social polarization and that extremism between opinions happening in younger youth. So I say that, but I am a younger youth. Um, but like pretty much in like that middle school, that 13-year-old up into that 19-year-old um age, and that makes perfect sense. That's where a lot of your identity is being shaped. That's where you're really where it's where you're really seeing who you are. Um, but you see that typically, and you see that a lot in the social structure, and your social group. So I feel like even in university I see it, but um sorry. Can you guys hear me? Okay, okay, good, good, good. I feel like you see a lot of these global trends and these political events really trickle into groups, and then those opinions are formed, and then that polarization happens. Um, and a good example of this is what's going on in Palestine. I feel like a lot of people became very divided, in a lot of the groups that I was seeing when that first started happening, and once again, like the strong opinion, the strong dialogue was formed. And I feel like this also happened way back in 2020 with the Black Lives Matter movement and the Me Too movement. I feel like that was like the boom of when polarization first started getting formed, and I feel like we're just seeing the those same spaces, but just with different topics. So I would definitely say they're impacting youth. I would say they're impacting the younger youth way more, in my opinion, than what in university, once you really get onto that next step of identity and finding your own voice outside of your friends. Um, but yeah, definitely still impacting Canada and still impacting youth.
I just want to speak on that for a bit. I think we've almost all seen the anti-immigration rhetoric that's been on the rise, whether it's in Canada or the UK or America. I think that definitely has an impact on youth, especially since obviously we're all online and a lot of this rhetoric is being spread online, and there's no doubt that youth are seeing this. And an example that comes to my mind is I think it was in October where in the House of Assembly there was an event to recognize Islamic Heritage Month, and an MLA, I forget his name now, but he posted it on Facebook, and there was just a bunch of Islamophobic comments on it. And I think so. I was born and raised here, and seeing those comments obviously makes you feel like there's it's not that fun to see, obviously, and you kind of feel um just like you're not welcome, even though you've been here your whole life. I'm Canadian. So, yeah, so I definitely think it has an impact on youth seeing those things online. Yeah.
I definitely agree. Seeing like the major increase of like the political tensions globally is like always like spoken about and perpetuated online, and there's extremism and a lot of hate groups in different sections of social media. And youth are the most vulnerable to those aspects and platforms on social media. So I think with the consumption of extremism and hate and racism of any form online, it definitely has an impact on the youth in Nova Scotia. I work with a youth program here with younger youth, high school age, early high school age, and it's very common. I've seen with very hateful, almost seeming historic ideologies around immigration and racialized people in Canada of all forms. So it's definitely has an increased presence since my time in grade school, and now seeing that reflecting in like the youth that I work with today. It's definitely something I've noticed. Just the spread of hate has certainly increased, and especially in racialized forms.
Thank you, Yahya, and then Rada.
Yeah, just to add on what everyone has said, I think it's without a doubt that these things, whether they're happening in neighboring countries or across the globe, they definitely have a serious impact on us here in Nova Scotia. So the tensions show up here in our like schools, they show up in workplaces, even in families or friend groups. And if I can just share a statistic that I found, which was Canada has recorded the highest number of Muslims killed in Islamophobic attacks among all G7 countries in the world. And that personally affects how safe we feel in, public spaces, even speaking up in spaces like these or other workshops that we've had, or simply just existing in certain places. So when global conflicts, trends on social media and youth experience more judgment, more stereotypes, and a higher pressure to explain, or they feel the need to defend themselves constantly. So it definitely it divides people, it divides families, and it increases the stereotypes that these people have, and can have a serious impact on mental health, and can also have a serious impact on people's identity and how they perceive themselves as well.
I won't be saying much because all the youth have said it. But yeah, I am agreeing that it is impacting like a lot of youth here in Nova Scotia. And mainly it's due to the things that we have in our phone, meaning phones. I mean, basically, I see this trend also going on, especially in my community too, where youth are, especially the global political events that are going on. And like you could see that now there's tension even in speaking out your opinion in some sort, because then the younger youth who are even younger than like me, I would say, is that like they're so like there's so much miseducation in there that if you speak word, it's that like there's a tension and hatred that will come towards the conversation that everybody's having. And so I noticed that happening, and mainly I blame it on mainly on social medias and all, because it is the biggest platform that kind of spread all of that, and which it is greatly impacting the youth in Nova Scotia. So yes.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of this. And we can sense, we can feel how this global tension is impacting the day-to-day life. And you are also sharing with us your concern for the younger generation that are now living into within that tension without being even able to process this information, but they can feel it in their bodies, even if they don't understand the yeah, the inside layer of it, but it's impacting people who are around you at younger age as well. So yeah, unfortunately, this is a reality, but I think yeah, now when I'm saying that, I think I see the third question. Uh, so, in in your opinion, what could be the root cause of extremism? Because that kind of pressure might lead, when those pressures are not answered, not unpacked, not deconstructed, they might push individuals to take um, decisions at the extreme. So going away from the nuance you spoke about a little bit earlier. So the question is, what is the root cause of extremism, and what is the solution? And I think with that question, we can loop in and maybe close the circle. So yeah, ideas, Aliana?
So honestly, I only heard like the ending part, and you said that it was the root cause of extremism and what is the solution to that. Okay, so I think that extremism comes from historically colonization, and I feel like it's really rooted deeply into these historical ideologies of from colonization and really racism, and you'll see, and I feel like it's just being mimicked and then polarized, if that makes sense, with different groups. Um, Sorry, I glitched out. Can you hear me still? Okay. I'm having really bad Wi-Fi connections. Um, And I feel like it's just being kind of like mimicked um down into different groups. And honestly, I feel like a big part of this as well is that um it comes from as well as people kind of going back to what I said, like blending in and wanting to be a part of like a collective and of something. Especially with younger youth, a lot of youth are exposed to a lot of this stuff on the internet, and they probably are thinking, well, if this is what I'm seeing, then this must be true, or this must be kind of like where I'm gonna find my sense of belonging, in a sense. And I feel like that's where the root of extremism is coming from. A solution to this that is extremism is complex, polarization is complex. It's hard to generate one solution for just one general huge thing like this. Um, but I would say going back to really talking about what extremism is, because it's really affecting the younger youth, I would say, and talking about what what it means, what it looks like in schools, what is and what isn't okay, kind of, in a sense, and just moving from that. I think it should just be talked more. There should be spaces where people can really talk about it. Um, and for the people that are affected by it, they should be able to share and communicate and talk about these types of things. And yeah.
Yahya, you're next.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to pinpoint, you know, where extremism comes from because I think there's a wide variety, and to everyone it can be different. But I think in a world where, education and knowledge is at our fingertips, there's a huge lack of education. There is a lot of misinformation being spread around, as well as discrimination. So I think all of these things combined kind of create environments and they create harmful ideas that spread like wildfire and they spread more easily. And my personal solution to this is just to build a sense of a belonging to everyone. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, that we need these problems integrated in our education system. So we need stronger education on empathy and diversity, as well as youth-led community spaces and more leaders and policymakers who can speak out against hate and misinformation. So when people feel connected and supported and, feel more like one and as a community, extremism kind of loses its influence and it doesn't have that much of a say.
Ailif, you're next.
I think it's really hard to find just one specific cause of extremism. I think there's just a lot of a lot of factors that kind of play into it. Some of them have already been discussed. Like there is I think there is a desire to kind of fit in and kind of follow the trends and beliefs of like your peers and your family, especially with younger youth. Like it's much easier to just follow what your parents say, and if your parents hold kind of hateful belief, like you tend to kind of pick those on and carry them out. And if you are in an echo chamber of the exact same, they're going to kind of build on each other and become much more extreme. Um, there are a lot of like systemic issues, a lot of ongoing systemic biases allow for, power imbalances, and that leads to people of, either not having privilege or becoming too comfortable with their privilege and not wanting to allow any other voices or allow any other people to potentially have that privilege. It's kind of viewed almost as like an attack of oneself. And I think it's a lot easier for people to kind of scapegoat or find a person or a community and just kind of blame all the problems on just one person or a group. And especially with like the lack of education, like we were speaking about, like there is a rise of misinformation and disinformation, especially with social media and online. People, it's so easy to just kind of follow what everyone else is saying, what everyone else is doing, because you want to kind of fit in, you want to follow what everyone else is doing. And if you don't know any better, like unfortunately, like it's so easy to just get caught up in what everyone else is doing. Um, I think there really needs to be a lot more education and understanding of like social and systemic issues, and build a better understanding of like a better like build a stronger commitment to community, and building a stronger connection to the people around you, and like really talk to people, understand like what are the problems that you are facing in your life, like, and be willing to have these kind of potentially like really kind of scary questions, and allow yourself to feel uncomfortable. You don't, allow yourself to not hold all the space, and recognize your own privilege and your own biases, and listen to other people, and allow yourself to potentially have your opinion changed and your mind changed. And I think that's a really great kind of starting off point to potentially start, stopping the rise of extremism and preventing it. But I think there's a long way to go before we are completely rid of it, unfortunately.
Thank you. Laurie?
I agree with like what has been said already. I think extremism is so vast, and can happen in so many different forms to so many different people, and the different intersections they reside within. I think a major root cause of extremism is the perpetual cycles of hate, and like the combining perpetual cycles of hate and the lack of education around like different like why extremism is formed, where it comes from, and how those opinions are led, and how people like locate these ideologies and reside with them. I think identifying those issues, as vast as it can be, and a lot easier said than done, and like working and creating an education and doing groups like this and communicating about extremism prevention, and like understanding where these things come from, more so than just saying like this is wrong, we need like don't hold these ideas, more so give people an understanding as to why it's happening, and how to navigate experiencing it and being a perpetrator of it, instead of just like shutting the door in their face, giving an opportunity to for them to learn more, and how to kind of prevention through education, and intervention through education as well.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing all of this. So we're heading towards 5:30. So I would like to wrap up and then open again the circle for us to share final words on what we've shared today, the experience. So I will start and then I will call the one is sitting next to me on the window. We would like to include our amazing ASL translators and also sharing their voices on the time we spent together today, and also include Jeff in the process. So we are all forming one circle. So yes, on those notes, I would like to, I'm grateful for, really, I'm grateful for the Human Rights Commission because it provided us with this opportunity to reconnect with those amazing, amazing, amazing minds, hearts, intellects, and powerful words. Thank you for meeting us halfway, even if we're online. We know that it's not easy to put oneself on the spot like this, being recorded, and the YouTube will live after this meeting. So I am really grateful for your bravery. And then we remember that our colleagues in the workshop, they taught us we don't want only safe spaces, we need braver spaces. And then this is an additional example of what does it mean to be brave and to stand up and to speak, and also to be mindful of each other in the space. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you so much for your words and your ideas and your even like beyond that for your presence as a whole in the space. So the one is sitting next to me is Amy. And then Amy, don't forget to give it to someone who's sitting next to you. And no one is excused from this exercise.
I miss your directions, Aina. It's been a few weeks. I always know what I need to do and when I need to do it, and that I'm really grateful for that. I've been kind of jotting down notes and actually looking at a map of Halifax that have been obsessed with for a while around social cohesion, because I heard a lot in what you were sharing. Like, it seems, creating sense of community, creating belonging, creating places where people feel connected and can connect. And I feel like that's in the wheelhouse of the work that we do as a municipality. And I think it's um, the growing divide that we see when we kind of map out indicators of social cohesion is troubling. Because also when I hear you speak, I hear the solutions seem so simple, you know? And so it's I don't know, I'm sitting with that. I'm grateful again to have the opportunity to hear and learn from you and alongside you. I'm looking forward to the next time. I know it hasn't been a straightforward path, but when Zaina tells us that we need to do something, we come together and show up and do it. And I'm looking forward to that next chance we have to meet again. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it over to the next person on my screen which is Eilith.
Yeah, oh gosh, I'm really happy that we were able to come together. So thank you, Human Rights of Canada, for allowing us this space. I think it's really important to understand that community change needs to be community led. It's not just a bunch of like five people in a room who are making all the decisions. You need to be able to kind of go out and listen to the community and talk to people and understand what it is that people are wanting and what is it that people need, and be willing to listen to all these opposing viewpoints, be willing to kind of potentially be uncomfortable, and sit with your own privilege and kind of recognize like where you stand within the community, and understand that you don't know everything. You're not going to ever know anything, but the best you can do is to just sit and listen and learn and be willing to learn. And coming together in spaces like these, I think, is incredibly important. And I'm incredibly grateful to have been able to be here. So thank you very much for having us. And I'm going to pass this on to the next person I see, which is Yasmin.
Yeah, I'm also just very grateful for the opportunity. I love that we've come together and shared all of our views together. And I feel like every time we do that, I learn something different each time. I agree with Aelith that community change has to be community led. I think that's very important, and you guys have given us the opportunity to share our views and listen to us. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that. I'll pass it to Aliana.
Just really echoing what has already been said. I'm feeling really good and entirely grateful that I was given this opportunity to be able to speak and talk about these really important things. And thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah. And I'll pass it to, yeah.
It's kind of feeling the same way as everyone, I guess. I'm also very grateful and I'm very fortunate that I was able to be a part of this conversation. And I was fortunate enough to be in a space where our voices are taken seriously and that we're heard. So my hope is that today wasn't the end, but maybe it's like the start of a real ongoing action and a real change. So I'm excited to see what's to come. Oh, and the person beside me is Raida.
Thank you. As all, I'm feeling very grateful, very lucky to have met each and every one of you that I keep carrying in my heart and my mind as well. I would like to direct a message to all the adults who are making the decisions that are impacting young people's lives, including myself. And I will say in this message, inspired by listening to you and working with you all, is for adults to have the honesty and the decency that we are here to listen, to learn, and not to teach you what you need, and that we should be loyal to what we have learned from you and accountable to the fact that you have chosen us as the people who listen to you, accountable also to be sitting in the chair of someone who's able to make decisions for you and with you. So I really hope that every adult in a seat like this understands what it means to listen and to carry your voices and to be accountable to you. And next to me, I have Mallory.
I just want to say, it truly is amazing and beautiful to see. Like I walked into this just meeting for a weekend, and moving forward from there, and it's amazing to still be able to speak about my experience and others' experience, and to be given the opportunity to share my knowledge and like have my peers share their knowledge as well. So I'm just echoing a major thank you, and a lot of gratitude. And I pass it to Rhoda.
So I'm also very grateful for the space. I'm grateful to be part of this, and it is all thankfulness that I'm able to give back. Is that also I'm hopeful that I see that I could sense that hopefully there are gonna be implications that gonna be put in and all that. And just want to say I'm grateful and thank you, everybody.
You can call on our ASL translators and Jeff as well. We would like to hear from you.
Thank you, Zaina. I would invite either of the ASL or both ASL interpreters. I know it wasn't part of the deal that you would need to speak, so I'll pause for a moment, welcome you to speak, and then I can go last. Thank you both, acknowledging that you are working. I just feel very grateful for the modeling of uh, leadership and creating this brave space today, and would hopefully have an opportunity in the future to invite further discussions like this. I leave the invitation open with Zaina and Amy to call upon the commission when there's more that we can do to amplify this incredible work. And the wisdom in this space is incredible. Thank you to all the youth. I say that with quotation marks, knowing that you've demonstrated wisdom far beyond your years. And thank you, Zaina and Amy. Zaina, did you have any final words that you wanted to offer up before we say our goodbyes?
I think gratefulness is the best word, and thanks to that spirit that's holding us together. And thank you for the translators, even if they did not share, but I was observing what they're doing with with full gratitude for their efforts as well. And thank you for CPN-PREV also as an entity that is embarking on this commitment with full heart and mind. Grateful for Amy for joining us halfway and even not speeding ahead of us. So thank you, grateful.
With that, Zaina, would I ask Amy and yourselves to maybe share how folks viewing this, either live or a recording, where would they go to learn more about your work?
Ghaida, can you please speak to that?
Sure, of course. So you can get in touch with Zena or myself. We also have a website, CPN-PREV. So I think if people just type Canadian Practitioners Network for the Prevention of Violent Extremism or for extremist violence, or CPN-PREV, they're likely to find us. And so that's a first way to discover more what we do, to join the network as well.
Thank you. And Amy?
So the report is available. Did you mention that it's on the website? It's on their website, not our website. It's an internal document for my reference right now. I've been sharing it with internally with folks. And I present annually to Regional Council on the municipality's public safety strategy and the progress we make each year. So this work will be included in that report going to council, likely in February or March. We have a website. It's not the easiest to find, but typically when I Google it, it will come up, hopefully in the first 5 hits. And it outlines all of the work we do with community and how we do it and what some of our indicators of success are. So please visit that, and public safety strategy, HRM, that should get you there. I'm pretty easy to find, not super active on social media, but you can find me, and I love chatting with folks, so they could also reach right out to me.
Thank you again. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Zaina. Thank you, everyone. This will conclude the discussion. One last plug for the remaining events for the Nova Scotia Human Rights Week. Folks can visit the Commission's website at humanrights.novascotia.ca. There are several more sessions this week and again next week, and we'll be presenting the Nova Scotia Human Rights Awards on December the 10th in Halifax at the Central Library, and would encourage folks that are within uh, attendance distance to join us in person. Otherwise, you can tune in virtually at the Commission's website to watch that as well. So, again, thank you all very much for your time and for your wisdom, and we'll see you soon. Take care.